My name's Archie Jamieson. I'm the Chief Instructor of Gold Coast Skydive, and I'm here today with Creative Disorder magazine. The company started back in 1987 when tandem skydiving first came to the Gold Coast. I was involved in it back then. I started jumping in 1986. I was a training manager for Coles at the time, so I was packing parachutes and doing camera jumps and that sort of thing. I moved away. I became full-time in the skydiving industry in about 1992, and I worked on and off here over the years as a sort of a fill-in person because I'm from the Gold Coast, so I pop in from time to time and do a bit of work. And then I came back here from New Zealand in 2004 and bought the company in 2008. So it was we're doing about 1,000 tandems a year at the time. We'll do close to 7,000 this year. So yeah, it's really grown a heap in the last 10 years. So been jumping for 30 odd years now. Started in April 1986. Got nearly 15,000 jumps. And this has been my job since 1992. So I'm the Chief Instructor and Managing Director of Gold Coast Skydive. I'm also a Director of our sister company Learn to Skydive and a Director in our aerobatics company Gold Coast Adventure Flights. So it keeps me fairly busy. My father was a bomber pilot during the Second World War. He used to fly Halifaxes, so I guess I had aviation in my blood. I'd seen skydiving happening at a couple of air shows and something that I'd always wanted to do. So I drove past a drop zone one day and got a brochure and started. Was only ever going to do a few jumps, but it was just too good not to carry on with. So started in the scary old days of round parachutes. Tandems hadn't been invented back then, and then just sort of grew into the sport, became a competitor. Went to a couple of world championships. Got a tandem rating. I had a Learn Instructors rating, and then the whole industry really exploded. It's an accepted activity now to go tandem skydiving, and it's on a lot of people's bucket list. So yeah, here I am. I think it's impossible. You've got to actually get up there to experience it. It's really windy. It's really noisy. It's scary jumping out of a plane, particularly for the first time. But it's like no other feeling on earth. It's you're in free fall. You're basically weightless. It's an incredible adrenaline rush, and it's just an amazing experience. A tandem skydive is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that you can do in the sport nowadays that you can make a career out of it. The excitement's in the whole experience. It's a lot of my competition experiences in canopy formation stuff. So if we're jumping out of the plane, opening a parachute straight away and then building different formations. So that's a thrill all on its own. I like flying things, whether it be a parachute or an aeroplane or whatever. So canopy formation is exactly that, building different formations with your parachute. So open a parachute and then go and dock on different parachutes. So that was a lot of my competition experience over the years, particularly in the early days. So don't do a lot of it now. It's certainly a much more of an adrenaline rush, I guess. Running a parachute into another one, you can easily get tangled up in that sort of thing. So yeah, it's definitely a fear factor part of the sport, that's for sure. Skydiving's become a really accepted activity these days, so it's on a lot of people's bucket list. A lot of people do a tandem skydive. That's why we do the numbers that we do. There's very few people that actually go on with it and become skydivers or make a career out of it. I think we've got about 3,500 active skydivers in Australia at the moment that are sort of full-time jumpers, if you like, doing it as a sport or as a job. And there's nearly 200,000 tandems a year done in Australia. So a lot of people trying it and dipping their toes in the water, but very few go on with it. The first step is to do a course, which we run here on the Gold Coast. We teach people how to skydive, and then from there it's just get experience and get the jump numbers up. And the good thing about getting that experience, it's an incredible amount of fun. So yeah, jumping out of planes is an amazing thing to do. The first step is a lot of guys start out on the packing mat until they get their jump numbers up, and then get their instructors' ratings, and then go from there. but there's quite a high demand for instructors worldwide, so there's generally no problems getting a job anywhere in the world. The Gold Coast Skydive, when it first started out, it was known as Gold Coast Parachute Ride. We used to land out the front of the main terminal building if you go way back to the 80s. Obviously the airport's expanded quite substantially over the years. That area disappeared. We've moved to where the university is, Southern Cross University. We're landing there for a while. Then they built a university there, so we had to move again. We then landed in Len Peak Oval, and then from there we applied to land on the beach with Gold Coast City Council. We had a little bit of a battle getting that over the line, but we got there eventually. We're the only operation in the world that operates out of an international airport, so from the air it's right there. So to do what we do is absolutely amazing, and we've got some of the best scenery anywhere in the world. It's the icing on the cake, really. I mean, you can jump out of a plane anywhere, and it's a fantastic experience. But to have the view that we've got here is just I've jumped all over the world, and you'd really have to go a long way to beat what we can see from the sky here. That's for sure. All over the place, really. A registered drop zone has to be in Australia, has to be an approved operation through the Australian Parachute Federation. So, and then anything outside that box, for example, if we were to do a display jump into a football stadium, we've got to do all the necessary applications to get that through. And that's one of the best things in the sport. So like display jumps, which we do a lot of here on the Gold Coast, are one of the most exciting things that you can do. You have to need a display organiser's licence to be able to do that. Fortunately I've got that, so we jump into things like the Titans football games, the GC 600, Seafire, and that's certainly an adrenaline rush, because it's not the day-to-day thing that we're doing here. I mean, we get used to the landing area, we know it inside out, we're doing it, as I say, on a day-to-day basis multiple times.